Good evening. Welcome to Let's Talk Maywood on Diversity Today Media. I am Dr. Reggie Ratliff, your host for this podcast. And joining me is my co-host and the producer of this podcast and my co-laborer in the vineyard. Can never forget that. Investment advisor, Terrence Hollingsworth. Terry, are you there?
Yo, how you doing, Dr. Ratliff?
Digging the shirt, bro. Digging the shirt. But
I told you, Maywood has been good to me. Most of the guys that came from, a lot of guys from Proviso East, they wrestle at Triton. I wanted to put on a Triton shirt today.
right.
We all know about Triton. So,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So it's a pipeline. It was pipeline for many years from Proviso East to Triton College and beyond. But I'm excited about today. But first, I know you heard about the interest rate. They may raise interest rate again one more time before the year's out. And the stock market, the Dow was up 700 today. The NASDAQ was up 400 today. What does that look like as far as inflation and those who are aspiring to be investors or currently investors?
yeah, so, it comes down to what we talk about pretty much every week, that the Federal Reserve is they're targeting inflation to be at 2%. We're at 7.5% now. But the reason why the market rallied like it did today was because the Federal Reserve chair, he said that, it looks like it's working. We probably won't raise rates 0.75 next time and be 0.5, right?
Yeah.
And all those things are a sign that what they're doing is working. And so once the market has direction, guess what? People know where to buy. And that's what we're experiencing. They're saying, okay, a lot of these technology companies, they have low valuations. They're cheaper than what they were before COVID. And we know that that's probably where the money is going. But they first want to see when the Federal Reserve is going to stop raising interest rates.
How does that look like now that we are in, the Christmas season for shoppers? Do you think that's going to impact the spending?
No, actually, that's a good question. Now, what we're seeing is one of the biggest problems with that causes inflation is labor.
Right.
Well, a lot of companies are not hiring like they were, in years past. You need your Christmas help and things like that.
Seasonal
And
employees, right?
yeah. So even if you look at the corporate level, guess what? They not only are they not hiring, they're laying people off.
Right.
So, spending is up. People are people. They like spending money, right? So, the numbers are going to come in. They're going to come in, good numbers of people bought a lot and spent a lot of money for Christmas, but still, at lower valuations and things like that. And, all things considered, I think that's still good for, investors because, right now we know that you can buy value and income investments, or you can buy technology if you're looking, maybe 3 years or 5 years out. So, point being, start investing.
Do it now. Invest now. And we talk about this every Thursday from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you are interested or intrigued by our conversations, contact me at sratliff68@yahoo.com. Ask for the link to the class. I will send you a link in turn. And please, there's no charge for this class. There's no dumb questions, no dumb analysis. And we encourage your engagement and participation in this class. So anything you want to say beyond that, Terry?
No, I'm excited for talking to these old pirates. They
Yes, sir.
When I moved into Chicago, guess what? These were the first places that I went, and I say it again. Maywood has been good to me. Proviso East has been good to me. My brother Eric Campbell, who has passed away now, he was a former pirate, and that's that. So.
Well, I want to acknowledge, the passing of, had Coach Jawan, the new head wrestling coach for the boys and girls wrestling team at Proviso West. Just as we talked about it, Boo Boo Thompson passed away.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was a 2-time state champion heavyweight for Proviso West High School. So, yeah, our condolences to them. And also our condolences to my fellow pirate, Eddie. I'm not Eddie Baker, but Bruce Baker, who passed away just recently as well. He was on the 1981 state runner-up for Proviso East High School. So, condolences to those families as well. Please keep them in your prayer out there, those who are watching the podcast.
All right. Well, I'll see you guys on Thursday.
All right, brother. All right. We're going to move forward. I'm excited about introducing our trio of guests. They all had a very huge influence in my wrestling career, taking me in as a babe, as a freshman at Proviso East High School, being patient, which ultimately led to our state wrestling championship in 1986. The first guest I'd like to bring on is Dr. Charles A. Flowers. Dr. Flowers, who is born in South Bend, Indiana, he is a lifelong resident of Maywood, Illinois. He is a product of Irvin Elementary School in Maywood and Proviso East High School, also in Maywood. He was also captain of the Proviso East wrestling team. He is an alumni of Chicago State University, where he received a degree from there. He received a Master of Science in Criminal Justice Administration and a Master of Special Ed and Administration. He's also a graduate fellowship scholar, served as graduate assistant in the Department of Special Ed at Chicago State University. Also, he has his EDD, the terminal degree, Doctorate in Education, Administration, and Supervision. He was, I should say, the assistant wrestling coach at Proviso East High School. He was a 3-time nominee of Assistant Wrestling Coach of the Year. The list goes on and on and on, but he is very incremental in community service as well as awards. He is the co-founder of the Maywood Youth Football Program and the co-founder of the Maywood Youth Wrestling Program. We're going to talk about that a little bit more as we move forward. Without further ado, I'd like to bring on Dr. Charles Flowers.
Good evening, Dr. Ratliff. How are you?
Good, Dr. Flowers. It's good to see you.
Same here.
Or should I call you Coach Flowers? Should I call you Dr. Coach Flowers?
No, Coach Flowers would be fine.
All right. Coach Flowers, I'd like to thank you for coming on the podcast. And as I mentioned in the intro, you are a lifelong Maywoodian. What is it about Maywood that kept you in Maywood, Coach Flowers?
Well, I think the community itself, the needs of the community. I've had multiple opportunities to relocate, but my heart has always been in Maywood, working with our youth, trying to provide them opportunities to succeed in life and just be there to support them. So that's probably the primary reason why I remain.
Understood. Well, you knew Bruce Baker, obviously.
Well, the Bakers, we grew up on the Bakers, my family moved to Maywood in 1963. Bruce and the Baker family lived down the block from me. We lived in the 100 block. They lived in the 200 block.
Wow.
So we joined up very early as, toddlers, 4 or 5 years old. I don't even think Bruce was born. He was just born, I believe, when I moved here. But the rest of them, John, Julius, Eddie, Freddie, Howard, all of them, we grew up. We grew up together in the 60s.
Wow. Right? And Donald as well, right? Donald was
Ronald and Donald.
Yeah. Wow. We're gonna talk about that a little bit more, as well as your career in the sport of wrestling, Coach Flowers, as well as academia and community as a whole in the village of Maywood and Proviso Township. So everyone, that's Coach Flowers. I'd like to also now introduce Coach Glen Lid. Coach Lid was an outstanding student at Elmhurst College, where he earned his bachelor's degree in 1978, and at Concordia College, earning his master's in 1985. He graduated with the highest honors and received the De Bruyne Award in biology. He was also a member of the Honor and Leadership Organization, Phi Kappa Phi, and Omicron Delta Kappa. He was a freshman coach at Proviso East from 1979 until this past season. And he is coach freshman that went to earn the following honors: 72 state qualifiers, 12 place winners downstate, 10 finalists, including 4 state champions. And so just moving on, because just like Coach Flowers, Coach Lid's resume is extensive. So I would just talk about his awards. He is a Hall of Fame wrestling coach. He's a state finalist for the Presidential Award for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching in 1993 and 2009. and also the Elmhurst College Alumni Merit Award in 2005, the 2007 Golden Apple Teacher of Distinction, and the 2007 Davidson Award for Chemistry Teaching from Chemical Industry Council. He was also the head baseball coach at Proviso East for 25 years in 2014, and the Willowbrook High School Distinguished Alumni Award in 2014. We're going to talk about more of that, but without further ado, I would like to bring on the Hall of Fame wrestling coach, Glen Lid. Coach. Yeah, he's the one on the right. On my right. To his left is Coach Cartwright. We're going to talk about in a minute. Coach Lid, how are you?
I have a cold, but I'm doing okay.
But you tough it out, man. I've seen you in worse conditions. So thank you for taking the time to join us this evening. It's an honor and a privilege to have you on. And, how was your experience working for Proviso East as a chemistry teacher, right? And assistant wrestling coach for so many years.
It was a dream come true. If it wasn't for Charles Flowers and Bill Cartwright, especially Charles Flowers at the beginning, I mean, he taught me everything I knew. I only wrestled 1 year in high school, and I know when I was first hired, I think Coach Cartwright, he went to the personnel director and said, "What the heck are you doing? Hiring this guy who does have very little experience." And I think I was blessed in that Bill hired Charles, and I learned so much from Charles, and it carried over, so that eventually I was able to, with the help of Ben Cuss as well.
Yes.
Without Ben Cuss, I'd never be able to get as far as I did either. And we had a state championship team in '91, but by that time Charles was already working with the varsity. But I learned enough from Charles that I could really help bring kids along. And coaching or teaching chemistry at Proviso, it was just as fulfilling. In that, I think it's just so important that high schools hire their coaches that teach in the school, because I think a lot of my students wrestled, and they weren't necessarily the best wrestler,
Right.
but it taught discipline, it taught rigor, it taught grit, and it was just a real pleasure to be able to do both for kids in the classroom and on the mat. And so many of these kids have gone on to do unbelievable things. I'm thinking of some of the wrestlers that we had. Charles was very instrumental in this. We both fought very hard to get him into college, but he's a chemical engineer or an electrical engineer for Commonwealth Edison.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Vincent Smith.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm thinking of Marcus Walter. He's a weatherman.
Right.
He does shows. Last time I know, he was up in the Rockford area, but the list just goes on and on.
Yeah.
We have doctors, we have teachers. Look at yourself, Reggie. We're so proud of what you're doing.
Thank you
for the community,
Yeah.
and it's just an amazing to see. It makes you rich beyond your wildest dreams.
Absolutely.
And I'm not going to ask you too many questions, Coach Lid, in the fact that you are, under the weather. You keep pulling it down. It might get over to the man to your right. We'll save you at the necessary points. But to his right is also the Hall of Fame head wrestling coach from Proviso East High School, Bill Cartwright. Coach Cartwright wrestled at East Leiden High School. Under Hall of Fame coach, the late Hall of Famer Chuck Farina. Coach Cartwright's collegiate days were spent at Wayne State College in Nebraska, where he was a national qualifier. He was also all conference. His teaching and coaching career began at Proviso East in 1970, with his coaching being wrestling and football at the freshman level. and he continued this until he took over the varsity wrestling program in 1977-78 season. His varsity coaching record is 11 conference titles, 9 regional titles, 8 sectional titles, and 1 state runner-up. He has had over 230 dual wins, 72 state qualifiers, 26 place winners, and 4 state champions. His teams went downstate, finished second, and 8th in the individual tournament. His dual teams have qualified 5 times, placed in 3rd and 4th, and twice winning the state championship in the year 1986, my year, and 1991. Coach Cartwright has been named voted Coach of the Year in Illinois in 1980, 1986, and 1991, and was nominated 6 other times. He was also nominated National Coach of the Year by the Illinois Coaches Association in 1992. He has helped coach 6 Illinois national teams, and he is presently a member of the IHSA Wrestling Advisory Board. That's Illinois High School Scholastic Association. So, to his right, and without further ado, Coach Bill Cartwright. How you doing, Coach Cartwright?
I'm doing good, Rich.
Good to see you, man. You know,
I couldn't have done better myself than to say all that stuff. You did a lot of research.
I practice. So, yes. But, you know, as someone just mentioned, Aaron Janowski just chimed in through his comment. This is royalty, ladies and gentlemen, that you have here. Rarely do you have 2 Hall of Fame coaches on one podcast, a local podcast like ours, as well as an illustrious, nationally renowned education consultant and former coach like Dr. Flowers. I'm truly honored because I can attest that I'm a finished product of the work you 3 gentlemen put into myself and hundreds of others on the mat and in the classroom, on the football field, and on the baseball field. So I'd like to start with you, Coach Cartwright. When you took over when you came to Proviso East High School as a teacher and a coach, how was that experience for you in the beginning?
Well, I graduated college in 1969, and I started at Irving School for 1 semester.
Oh, okay.
And then after Irving School, I went to Proviso, and that would have been in 1970. And been my whole career at Proviso. Like Coach Lid was talking about how proud we all are of you. Dr. Flowers is the same thing. Dr. Flowers is on my 2nd freshman team, which should have been in 1972 probably.
Yes.
And I can remember Charles was a good student. Obviously, he's got his PhD now, but he was a good student at that time. And he had some good friends on the team, and they were tough kids, and they were good wrestlers, and the potential was there. And I could always see that. And I can remember just a little story. You wanted to hear some stories.
Yes, sir.
Coach Flowers, at the end of his freshman year, the kids on the team wanted to go see the regionals.
Oh,
and actually, they call it districts at that time. So
okay.
Oh my goodness.
And so I said, well, okay, I'll tell you what, I'll take you to the districts. You guys show up on Saturday morning and be here at 8:00. You want to get there early, it starts at 9:00. Something like get the times off a little bit.
Yeah.
So, okay, guess who's on time? Dr. Flowers. He's the only one that showed up on time. We're waiting for Willie Staples, Luther Thomas, and Frank Mohorn. And I'm waiting, and Charles, I could see as a little kid, he was nervous because I don't know what these guys are going to do. If they came home last night, he's not sure. He's not going to say anything to me. And it was almost like 10-9. I said, we got to get going. So we took off. I just took Charles. We took off, and I says, I can't wait. And he knew that, and he goes, I know. He's thinking, God, I'm the only guy. I'm going with this old man. I wasn't that old at that time.
Right.
To Leiden High School. And so we get to Leiden High School, and I got him in the gym or whatever. And the coaches were standing around in the hallway at Leiden, and all of a sudden, we hear a door slamming, bang, crash. Here goes one of Charles' friends running by. There goes bang, crash. Here goes another one, Frank Mohorn. Bang, crash. There goes Luther Thomas. They're all running. And all of a sudden, here comes a cab driver chasing the 3 of them. And Coach Ferguson was my assistant at that time, one of my
Oh.
assistants.
Yeah.
And he grabbed the cab driver and he says, hey, he's an adult. He stopped the cab driver and these guys didn't pay.
Wow.
And so Coach Ferguson had to pay for them. They wanted to see that bad. They went to hailed a taxi with no money in their pockets. And went to the meeting. So I knew at that time I kind of wanted to stay at Proviso for a while.
Yeah. That's a great story.
And they all those guys I mentioned went on and did real well.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
And they're retired now, for goodness sakes.
Yeah.
That's Proviso for you.
That is, look, I'm saying that is.
And you've seen it all too, Red.
I did.
Does that
Oh,
surprise you, Dr. Ratliff?
Oh,
Does that surprise you?
no, it doesn't, but it's still funny. Because we had a few for those
I was there
time.
for all those years, and I was fortunate to work with Coach Lid, and he told the truth. I did go to the personnel director, and I was a little upset that they hired a novice, because I really wanted to get things going.
Right.
But the type of guy that Coach Lid is, he actually started. Now picture this: came in with not a lot of experience, but he started going to old timer tournaments.
I went with John.
And you'd go with he went with Dr. Flowers.
I remember that.
And
Yeah.
by doing that, he actually had to cut weight.
yeah.
Right.
He's involved in wrestling now.
Right.
Yeah.
He had to cut weight and go to. So we're talking about old school learning a
Yeah.
trade.
You're
So
right.
he actually got involved in wrestling on the real level,
Right.
and he's been there ever since, obviously.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And Coach Flowers as well. And now I know Coach Flowers probably got some stories too.
You want to share one? People came to hear you guys, not me. So
Well,
have at it.
Well,
Guys that making weight, that was always a good one.
wow.
You had to keep an eye on a few kids, but
Oh, yeah.
So here's something that you guys probably didn't know. The year that we went to, I think it was our junior and senior year for that matter, with the boiler room. Remember, we used to go in the boiler room, and
Yes.
Blair Walker, I can talk about now because
now see, I don't know all this now. Go ahead.
So he had this little whatever, this little ounce of Bacardi or whatever, and we'll be in the boiler room. We said, "Here, drink some of this to make you hotter, so you can cut weight faster." So it'd be me, Murphy, Rose, Robert Bond, and we'd be in the boiler room on a stationary bike or jumping around, sipping on Bacardi, trying to lose weight.
All four of you guys sharing one little bottle, right?
Yeah, exactly. I didn't even drink, but I'm
God.
like, whatever it takes, I need to make weight. So,
I know. Boy,
so many.
I never knew that one. That's for sure. The boiler room was. I didn't want anybody to know that either.
Right. Exactly. Oh, good. But there are so many stories we could talk about. You came in. The three of you came in. Oh no! I just had to say it. Reggie Wright just said snitch.
Reggie's listening.
Reggie, you need to come on so you can share some of your secrets that coach.
I don't even want to tell about the stories with him and his friends. Dr. Flowers can go there.
Right. Him and Terry Murphy, right?
Oh my
Oh my
goodness.
gosh.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So
Sure.
you gentlemen bonded. Coach Lid, definitely commend you for getting out there and just getting that real life experience on the mat. And I'm sure that helped you develop as a coach, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it did. I actually went into some old timer tournaments all the way up into my 40s. So,
Nice.
it kept me in shape, but it made me, I think as a teacher and as a coach, you got to walk the talk,
Right.
Mhm.
I played it was a 30 and over baseball league. And I was like 52. But I thank God that I was so blessed to be able to coach kids like you, Reggie. I remember taking you, Dr. Flowers and I took you because you were like a young freshman, I think.
Yeah.
And you
Yep.
weighed like 72 pounds.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Yeah.
And he took you and Darwin Jackson, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
He was
yeah.
younger. And we
Yeah.
took you to, I want to say, like a freestyle summer tournament because of the age group. But we spent all day with you. I think it might have been in Plano, Illinois, or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You guys took us everywhere. Coach Flowers, Coach Lid, sometimes Coach Cartwright. We would go to Glenbard East, which is where the Old Timers tournament was held many years. I mean, we went to Plano. You guys took us to Downers or Hinsdale or, wherever on Saturday mornings, freestyle tournaments or whatever. In the beginning, we got our butt kicked, but the more you guys took us, the better we got, the more we developed, because we didn't have a youth program in Maywood like they do the Gladiators, and that kind of thing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
No, you're right. That was all you guys were from gym classes.
You're
Yeah.
right. You're
Yeah.
right.
But the fortunate thing that Proviso offered at that time, they offered a class called 7 Special.
Mhm.
Right.
And that was the last period of the day you could go to your sports program.
Yeah.
And it was your PE class.
Yeah.
And so if you were in football, you go to that, or if you're in wrestling. And so we were able to work with you year round a little bit,
Mhm.
That's right.
and develop. And,
That's right.
and that was an important program that Proviso dropped out, I will say.
Mhm.
And,
That's right.
and now you could work with kids in their academics. That they need that. They absolutely need that.
Yeah.
Now they're hiring people that aren't teachers as much, and I'm not putting that down. But a class like that is something that the kids really need now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
What-
they just don't have it.
Coach Flowers, what do you have to say about that? I mean, that's a great transitional subject.
Yeah, I was a fan of 7 Special because I'll tell you, coming into high school, I was sort of had just resolved to run track and field. I had did it in elementary school. I knew about wrestling, and Cartwright alluded to Frank and Tuke. Well, we all went to elementary school together. Tuke went to Emerson. We were at Irving, but we knew each other just from the community and stuff.
Right.
So I coming to Proviso, believe it or not, my freshman year, I may have weighed 92 or 3 pounds.
Mhm.
So I was small,
Mhm.
and I wasn't thinking about going on for the football team.
Right.
Right.
I thought about cross country, and I had Coach Farinella. I was sharing a story with Coach Lid and Cartwright my freshman year. So I had first period gym, and Farinella would always keep a stopwatch on him. So we're in PE class, and he's clocking people, and I'm thinking, oh, what is he doing? So I, ran around the track. I think I was running the 200 and 400. And he said, well, Flowers, come over here. I want you out for track. Thinking, I said, oh, okay, Mr. Farinella. You didn't dare disappoint him.
Right. Right.
I said, okay. So football was over with and wrestling started. I remember Luther and Tuke telling me, he says, Charles, he says, what are you doing? I said, nothing. He says, well, come out for the wrestling team. I said, okay. So I go out for wrestling, and I'm liking it. Cartwright was our freshman coach. We had a lot of fun. I mean, they mixed it up, and I enjoyed it, that kind of thing. So we caught on to it. So as the season progressed, I don't know if, Bill, you remember this, but we're working out upstairs in the East Gym, and Farinella comes barging through the door. And he's pointing at me. You're over there, you're coaching us and stuff. And he points the finger at me, and you said, Charles, come over here for a second. And my heart's beating 1,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
What did I do? So when I get over there, Farinella starts ringing me out, and I'm just, I was just scared to death. I'm thinking, what did I do?
Right.
And he finally told me, he says, you should be down on the drill court running. And it's in the wintertime. And I'm thinking, I tried to tell him, I says, well, Coach Farinella, I thought track was in spring. He said, no, it's in winter. And he's telling me to go downstairs, and Cartwright's not saying a damn word. I'm trying to look at him to say, Cartwright, say something. But I saw he had that little shit-eating grin on his face. Felnella's directed me out of the room to go down to the drill court, and I'm thinking, wow, I'm not going to be able to wrestle. So before I can get to the door, he calls me back, Fernella, over there with he and Cartwright, and son, I was just kidding with you. He had those hands of granite.
Yeah.
You know, he threw him on my back. I was a little guy at that time, and
Right.
I'm thinking, oh my, it scared the living hell out of me. But we had countless. Where do I begin? We had countless stories to tell.
Yes.
During our wrestling time as coaches,
Yes.
Glenn, we developed a very close bond with the freshman team. And to be honest with you, when Cartwright came a calling and said, well, I was going to you up with the varsity, I really didn't want to go to the varsity team. I wanted to stay. I enjoyed working with the freshmen.
Right.
You know, we had a nice thing going. We had some teams right in a row, and, we were grooming them. If you stayed in the program, Cartwright would always say, you stayed in the program for 3 years, and, we counted on seniors.
Yeah.
And, if you made it through and you got to your senior year, you were going to do something. We were going to be good as a team. So I sort of just piggyback off of that whole idea just to keep the kids interested and out for the sport, hoping we could get them to their sophomore and junior year. And, in many cases, you're a prime example, Reggie. You were a little guy coming in, and, junior, senior year, especially your senior year, you just blossom. I mean, but you had been in the program 3 years, and it was a testament to you guys had never wrestled before. There was no youth program that you were coming out of, but if we wrestled the best. We didn't dodge anyone.
No.
We may take a licking here and there, but at the end of the year, we were tested, and went up against the best. And at the end of the day, we had countless individuals to do well and make well in the sport. So that's what I was most proud of, and actually that's what kept me hanging in there. As the coach, I bleed proviso blue, so that was my.
Well, we would follow. We knew that, Reggie. We knew where you were. You were undefeated on the JV team.
Yeah.
I know that. And you were small. You didn't have to cut a lick of weight.
Right.
He's going to grow into the next weight, and I know you had to cut weight your senior year.
Yeah.
And the team was just falling, and it was a bunch of seniors.
Yes.
And you all worked together as a group.
Amazing.
And it all fell in line. And I know at the beginning of the year, the newspapers came and they wanted to have Joliet ranked number one. And I remember talking there. Reed Hanley was the Tribune guy, reporter, and he says, "What do you think?" I says, "You can put whatever you want down, but I says I think we're going to be number one." He says, I'm going to go with that, with what you said." And we beat Joliet obviously in the finals. Now the year before, we were good enough to beat them in the finals as well. I mean, meet them in the finals.
Right.
Yes.
So we caught them first round.
Right. Right. We were the second best team that year.
We were the second best. Yeah.
We were.
They were loaded.
They were.
Yeah.
They had that row of studs or whatever, and the spotlight shining on us, and
they were the original feeder program.
Yes.
Those were kids that later went to Providence.
Yeah.
Bill, how about Joliet West? That was a
same thing. Same thing.
They had teams that blowing up. So.
Yeah. And I agree with you guys. And Coach Lid, I want to talk to you just for a moment, but I want to make this comment first because you mentioned something about how the coaches in school is important, to be in the classroom as well, which is important. But in that same vein, these gentlemen, we talked about the feeder program and Joliet and eventually Providence and then later Montini and all those programs. We didn't have that. You were saying that, we were basically going by athleticism and wrestling year round. But although we lost to Joliet Central, I want to just ask you, Coach Cartwright, because if I'm not mistaken, the 81 team finished second by a quarter of a point, lost by a quarter of a point.
Half a point, yeah.
Half a point to
we would have won state. Seriously, I'm not, and I pictured we would have won state in 1980, 1981, We were second those years.
Mm.
And I just saw somebody flip on John Doss.
Yeah.
His brother, Pat Doss, was our heavyweight.
Mm-hmm.
He was a monster.
Right.
Wow.
Great kid. But anyway, we would have taken state in a dual. We had the best dual meet squad because we had balance.
Right.
And we took second those 2 years. And I honestly believe we would have beat Stagg in 1985.
We would have. If I could interject there, we were and when Stagg won it, we were the only team dual meet wise that matched up with them.
Exactly
to beat them.
right.
You know
what happened at that point is they didn't start, and they do that now, and I think they're totally wrong. They didn't start the state tournament series with dual meets. They started with points from the regionals.
Exactly.
And LT beat us in the regionals.
Yep.
We had one weight class. And in the finals, we were a dual meet against LT.
You're right.
You know, and that one weight class, we could have got a guy to stay off his back in a dual meet.
Right.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And that's all we had to work on. The rest of the team was solid as yours.
Well, I remember in sectionals, I know Coach Cartwright and Coach Flowers were kind of nervous, and I look over and Coach Cartwright's trying to squeeze water into his mouth. But he's spraying it all over Coach Flowers behind him.
It was funny. Cartwright was spraying me with a water bottle, trying to watch the match and drink at the same time. And the bottle was the water is streaming back on me.
In your new 3-piece suit.
That was against Wheat North. Wasn't it Wheat North?
Yeah,
that was Wheat. Oh, that was funny.
Wow.
That was funny.
So Coach Cartwright, when you think about those 2 second place finishes, did you feel a measure of revenge even after we lost to Joliet Central in '85 when we beat them twice? We beat them in the dual meet early in the season, which cemented us at number 1, and then we beat them in the state championship match. Did you feel like I got revenge or just relief? How was that feeling for you? And then
I think you could ask Coach Flowers the same thing. I think it's relief.
It is.
You know,
it's
finally like on it. You know, all those other times we were the best team in '80 and '81.
Yeah,
and it's tough getting through that. And in '91, when we were state champions, we had to get through Providence.
Yeah,
they were the real deal. They were like they weren't just good; they were like top 3 in the country.
Exactly.
You know, national. I'll do a shout out. We went down to heavyweight, and the heavyweight was Eric Campbell for us.
Absolutely. Beat the state champion, didn't he?
The heavyweight for them was ranked number 1.
Yes.
At Rosselaire.
And just won the state championship.
He had just won it.
And Eric was just a hard-working, big, tall, long, working. He just wore that kid out.
He did.
He spun around him and won. And I'll never forget the kids piling on top of each other. And I looked at Flowers and I says, "What do you think?" He says, "We're winning it." We knew the best team we just beat. You know.
Yeah.
We and I knew that too. I just want to hear it.
Well, if you remember, we met them at Crown Point. Remember that quad?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was a good meet.
And the score was even. It was tied. Going into 71 or what was it at that time? Something like that. But remember, we had all our guys up a weight. Remember, we threw Derek in at heavyweight and he was beating Rosselaire.
Yeah.
And then Rosselaire rolled on him. You know.
Exactly right. Yeah.
You know, he was an 89.
That was the thing, because Derek Menard would kill Eric Campbell.
Oh my goodness.
You know what I mean? So I'm just thinking, it ain't gonna happen. Do the best you can, Eric.
But you know what? Eric,
oh my gosh.
To Eric's wrestling ability, Eric would go in those freestyle tournaments and do well. He had great hips.
He's coordinated.
Yes. You remember, he had that sit out and roll that he worked to perfection.
And he uses leverage, and he's
and that's what caught Rosselaire.
Yeah.
Rosselaire got on top of him. He couldn't hold him. And Eric will take that arm, and if you get those hips working, he just pounced him over, you know, that kind of thing. So and
the great part about it is Eric had meets before that he lost the big ones.
Yes.
For us. And he's thinking, here I go again.
I know.
And
I
it
was
awesome.
nervous for him.
It
Yeah,
really was.
I was
Well, I
nervous.
remember Eric Robinson and Kamal Akbar
Oh yeah.
in the match
Yes.
against Providence. They were both losing their matches by a point or so,
Yes.
and they got takedowns. It's on film. I saw it.
Wow.
I think both of them got takedowns. I remember Eric actually brought the kid back from outside the circle and
Yes.
took the kid
Wow.
down.
Right.
In both of those takedowns, Kamal Akbar and Eric got were probably under 11 seconds.
Yeah.
That they had to get, to if we lose those two matches,
Right.
we don't win the state.
No.
Amazing.
Well,
Amazing.
Me,
if
no
you
doubt.
guys remember, our whole philosophy was be tough on our feet, take takedowns.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
teams would wrestle us. Reggie, you probably remember we in the sectionals we had to wrestle Naperville North. We were both
Oh, yeah.
undefeated,
I remember.
and
They
we
were
ran
undefeated.
through them. But we knew
Yeah.
I had scouted them already. They were mat wrestlers,
Right.
and all we did was we put them on their feet, and we just took them down and stuff. And we may have maybe lost one or two matches against them in that
We
meet.
beat them. We beat them.
That kind of thing. So, but we knew that our bread and butter was
On our
takedown
feet. Yeah.
on our
Absolutely.
feet.
Absolutely.
That kind of thing. So
All day long. Well, I want to ask you, Coach Lid, we transitioned to, the important equally important point of the coach being in the classroom as well. Why is that so important? And in not just the development of a wrestler, but the maturation of the student athlete.
It's critical. The notion that teachers that coach aren't good, which I've heard mentioned a few times in the past, is you think about the heyday of Proviso East athletics.
mhm.
It's the coaches were a family. They they encouraged kids to go out for all three sports.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They having a coach in the school, emphasizes academics as well as the sport itself. So if a kid doesn't show up to class, you're on it. If a kid's having a problem at home, you're on it.
Yeah.
It's about the whole kid.
Yeah.
If I was a school administrator, even when I was hired, they wrote in my contract, "We'll coach."
Yes.
If I was an administrator, one of my key points would be to hire teachers that are involved in co-curricular activities.
Yeah.
Because I think it creates a family, a unity within the school, and we've gotten Proviso has gotten away from that.
I'll give you an example. Exactly what you just said. With our state championship team in 1991, we had a kid by the name of Sidney Hooks. You guys,
Yes.
He beat some good kids.
Oh
He
my!
was the best kid in the state.
Number one kid they beat.
Well, he beat those twins from LT.
Yeah.
Both. They moved one up to go against them. It didn't make a difference.
Yeah.
But Sidney was a good basketball player.
Yes, he was.
In the summertime, he actually played with our varsity basketball team.
Wow.
Our varsity basketball team were state champions also.
Right.
Yes.
That was that special year.
Right.
Well, guess who called me in the summertime? How good is Sidney Hooks? I says, he's really good. It's Mr. Hit. He's a teacher in school. He says, you know what? He's good enough to make our team. He said, but I understand, but he's not up here. They had some special players with that. They had three professional players.
Exactly. The three amigos.
He might be 6th, 7th, 8th man, so to speak. He says, I'm going to push him out for wrestling from my standpoint. After our conversation. Now, having said that, that wouldn't happen without people that were working together and stuff.
Right.
Absolutely. And you know what? We won a good state without Sidney Hooks.
Well, just to add to that, we know the multiple times that Coach Lid would take kids under his wing at night, evening, mornings, and whatever, and tutor them.
Yeah.
That were bordering on being eligible.
Right.
They call it student athlete for a specific reason. You have to be a good student, or you can participate as an athlete. So that really helped us. We had opportunities, or they were given opportunities to get their act together academically, so that they could participate. So that's been lost for sure.
Yeah.
Totally.
Well, just think of Vincent Smith, Charles.
Oh my goodness.
You know, there's a kid. I mean, it's just kind of an interesting story.
I don't know if
You-
you could, I suppose.
You almost- But you know, Vincent Smith wouldn't have majored in nuclear engineering
Yeah, that's
if
amazing.
it weren't for his teachers to get involved.
Yeah, that's true.
Well,
You and I both.
I was in my office and you came to me and said, you know, he might not have the best grades in school. They're all good, but his math and all this other stuff are up here.
Mm.
You know, that kind of thing. Maybe he might have got a C in art, but he got A plus plus and you know,
But he
you know what I mean? That kind of stuff.
He was the National Honor Society student, and I had an opportunity. Who was the coach at Illinois? With Mark Johnson at the time?
Yeah, Mark Johnson. That's exactly right.
Well, remember, Bill, Mark came to Proviso looking at, I don't know who he was looking at, but it wasn't Vincent at the time.
No, I know.
So very quickly, you know, we started talking about academics, and
I was with you.
know, Vincent had a tough situation at home. I knew the family, I knew his mother, and all of that, and I would talk to him because his father was my best friend, Vincent Smith.
Oh wow!
I do remember that.
Vincent
He was a little guy.
Yeah, Vincent, who wrestled his freshman year with us.
Oh yeah.
Vincent lived 2 houses down from me.
What was his nickname?
Stutters.
Yeah, he did, and he was a straight A. And he was a straight A student.
Yeah, we called him Stutters.
That was in 1970.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, and I remember Vincent when he was a little baby coming over to his father's home and stuff like that. So I took a special liking to him, but he was a good kid. And his senior year, I'll never forget, he says, well, I was shocked. My classroom was downstairs on the bottom floor by the dean's office at that time.
I remember.
And he came to my door and I could see this dejected look on him. And he told me, he says, I said, well, Vince, have you made up your mind? You know, what are you going to do? And he said, well, Coach Flowers, I'm going to the Army.
It was the Air Force, but you're right.
It was the Army, Cartwright.
Oh, the first was the Army?
He had to, because he had taken an ASVAB. I ran down to the cafeteria where the guy was at. And I said, what are you doing? I said, this is a National Honor Society.
You and I called that recruiter from my office.
Yes.
Wow.
Right.
You know, he says, is this written in stone? He says, well, we'd love to have him.
Exactly. So what they did, they said that, you know, if he wasn't interested, he says, oh, but he knocked us soon off the test. I said, well, that's a standard test. He's a National Honor Society student. He should be in school.
He was 17
you know,
years old.
Air Force, you know, like Bill said, Air Force or the Academy, but not the Army, you know, that kind of thing. And that's how we really connected it with Mark Johnson, Bill, because if you remember, Mark brought Vincent down there during the summer for that internship program.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, he
coached at Illinois.
He coached at Illinois. He started that summer, and the rest is history.
Wow.
Right.
You know, no doubt.
He worked hard.
Yeah.
I love these.
Number 3 in the country in engineering at that time.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Amazing.
He was
This shows how
Trier and all those kids were flunking out.
Yeah.
Wow, but he stayed.
Yeah.
He did well.
Well, I can think of another kid, you know, talking about why coaches are important. I'm thinking of a kid named Narav Engerji, and I think he might have made it to sectionals. But there's a kid, you know, I got out of the chemistry class. He says, hey, why don't you try wrestling, you know? And, you know, I can think of hundreds of kids like that, that we got out of classes, you know, and that just,
that's
if
true.
you have teachers in the school, that doesn't happen.
You're right. You're right.
Wow. This is truly inspirational. And that's why I'm hoping people on this, the viewers are watching this, because this is history right here. This is, you know, the coaching excellence.
Well, maybe some board members are listening.
Well, I can tell you there's a lot of viewers, including Reggie Wright. I tell you, because he's been commenting since the start of this interview. But I want to ask you, because Reggie Wright and many others, Coach Lid, inquiring minds want to know why you were not invited back to Proviso East as a wrestling coach.
Well, to be honest, I don't know. And I guess that's what bothers me the most. You know, after 43 years, I was hoping to tie Coach Cartwright. I know he did 45, but you know, after 43 years, at the very least, I'd like to find out what I did wrong,
right?
To correct it. But you know what? No hard feelings. What do they say? I'm gonna do a Krupism. Remember Mr. Krupa?
Oh yeah.
Well,
Yes.
Mr. Krupa would always screw up saying. It's like,
so Mr. Costa.
Yes.
So would Mr. Costa. But what is it? What do they say? When one door closes
another one opens.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
you know, I'm just gonna move on. My heart's still with the Pirates. Someday I would like to know what it is I did wrong, but you know, my heart will always bleed blue, like Charles said. You know, that's for sure.
And now you are coaching at Glenbard West, correct?
So is Coach Cartwright too.
Coach Cartwright.
I haven't start yet, but I'm gonna.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have to do that ASVAB stuff.
I'm working with the freshmen. You know, the head freshman coach is a dean in attendance, and it was so stark to me. It was just so apparent to me why it's so important to have your coaches in the building.
Absolutely.
I mean, we've got close to 50 freshmen out.
Wow.
Yeah. We won 2 tournaments on a Saturday. We took 2 freshman teams to 2 different tournaments and won them both.
Wow.
Well, Pat McCluskey's the head coach now, and he's the one that called me up.
Okay.
He's ISO too. You know,
Right.
He's a good guy, you know. And he asked if I was interested. I said, well, okay, you know, do whatever you want. You know, you just come in, you know, that kind of thing. And he's real laid back as a head coach. I may have to straighten him out a little bit once I
Well, that
is what it is.
That was Coach Cartwright and Coach Flower's secret sauce. If you have a good competitive team, you would go against the best.
Right.
And not be afraid to take a loss. Because the goal is to win it at the end. And that's the only way you do it.
Just to be the best you can. That's all.
You
worked hard.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know,
Bill, you probably remember this. I won't name any names, but remember that Fenton tournament, you could wrestle down to like 7th to 8th place.
I talked to a guy today about that same thing.
Did you? Great tournament, great competition.
Yeah.
We had 2 probably bona fide state champions, and one made it to the finals. Lonnie Knowles. Remember, they were sophomores.
Bobby Walton.
Bobby Walton. You're right. Bobby finished 7th in that thing or something, didn't he?
And don't you remember the bracket sheet I gave him?
I know.
On a piece of toilet paper.
Right, exactly. I remember. You're right.
He was so mad he made it downstate that year.
Cartwright turned into toilet bowl match. I remember that. But
don't you?
Bobby was pissed, but from that day forward,
I gave him that toilet paper, and he.
Yes.
I put brackets on a piece of toilet paper and put Bobby Walton 7th.
But he
made it downstate that year.
Oh, absolutely, and he beat that kid from Leiden that plays 4th.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
In the dual meet.
Wait a second. We wrestled Maris in the dual meet.
Sure did.
But no, Bobby beat him in that kid that took 4th in the state from Leiden at 26. Bobby beat him in conference. And remember we had that conference tournament at the end of the year.
That was Chahowski or one of them.
No, Lugani, Lugani or something.
You talking about Doolittle?
Yeah, but that kid was from Leiden that he beat twice.
But he tied O'Brien.
Oh, yes, he tied O'Brien. Yes.
In the dual meet. They moved O'Brien up because they didn't want to wrestle Murphy, and they thought they could win 2 weights.
Yeah. Exactly.
Guess what? They didn't. They tied.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm just telling you this because I know our time is running short, and this could be a 2-hour podcast for all concerned. But
Yeah.
for the sake of time, I remember that tie. I remember us going out state. The only resentment I have is I wish they would have made the individual and the dual meet,
Separate. Yeah.
competition separate weekends
Yeah.
instead of the same weekend.
That-
We finished in midnight.
They
Yeah,
It was,
we
it
certainly
was
did.
midnight.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
That was too much
no,
wrestling.
you are right, Rich.
No,
And Terry,
Chris-
remember Terry had hip pointers. He had
Right.
Exactly. He didn't wrestle in the dual
He didn't
meet.
wrestle. No.
Jimmy Webb had to take over for him.
Yeah, Michael Webb.
Exactly. Michael Webb.
Yeah.
He was one of those
Jimmy Webb,
guys.
yeah.
He was one of those guys, coaches, when you said in the state final, I think he wrestled Paco Hernandez or whatever. He said,
And gave him a great
don't get pinned. Don't get pinned.
Yeah, but he wrestled him to like a 3-point match.
Yep.
That was a 3-point match. Yep.
And he was just coming back from injury.
Michael
Maybe
Webb.
he got hurt.
Exactly.
Oh, no, good.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Paco Hernandez or
Well,
something?
we had good reserve
Oh, yeah.
backup
We
wrestlers too with
Well,
you guys.
Roosevelt Williams, I saw him.
Roosevelt.
He might
Rose.
be listening.
Marvin
You know.
Washington,
And
Rango.
Roosevelt
Yep. So
had to
forth.
make 112
Exactly.
because he could beat Murphy. at
Right.
118.
Remember, he cut all that weight in one day.
He said, I
12
had him
pounds.
come into my office and he says, I sat back and put my feet up. He says, Rose, and I told him, he told me this now. I don't remember.
Mhm.
He says, and I said, Rose, if you don't make weight, you don't go downstate.
Oh, I remember that.
I remember that.
I don't remember saying
that.
it.
Yeah.
I probably
You
did.
said that.
I'm
But
sure I did.
Didn't he cut about 10 pounds in one day or something,
did.
I
Cartwright?
know it was hard for him. you know.
Yeah.
I know.
But Rose was a runner. He
He
ran.
was.
He could do that. He was. It
But
was
he
He
was
was.
big, though. He was big.
He was.
yeah.
But
But
12 pounder.
And when kids are growing, it's hard. You know.
yeah,
Oh,
he was
absolutely.
tall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
just like all the teams, Cartwright, Lid, Flowers, man, you touched so many lives from the point when you guys stepped on the mat as coaches and being, a mentor in the classroom, even from all of us, speaking from the wrestling community. We could just go in your office during lunch or whatever, when we couldn't eat, we
Yeah.
just talk, read the Sun Times or just.
Well, we had a lot of overnight at the house too. So did
Oh,
John.
my goodness. Yes, indeed.
We
Certainly
before
did.
the state finals for our squad, we watched Vision Quest at your house. Remember that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was a motivator for us. But just speaking for myself and all the other guys who may not have been accepted or kept on those other teams that we competed against, you guys stayed with us. You kept us. At times you fed us. You and Mrs. Cartwright and
Yes.
the family, and we
Well,
were
Charles-
a community.
Dr. Flowers' parents, when you were freshmen, they made dinner for you. Remember that, Charles?
Oh, you're right. Yes.
We did.
Hey, we
It
had
was
you
a
guys
community.
over. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
And Coach Flowers, I'm not sure if you remember this, but after taking third in sectionals, I had to wrestle the number one ranked guy in the state, Glen Lid from Libertyville. You were in my corner when I beat him in
Yes.
overtime.
Sure, I do.
And
Yes,
it made,
indeed.
made the front page. Well, sometimes
that was an overtime match. That match went back and forth and
yeah,
not almost. You finally nailed it, and
Yeah.
beat him. But yeah, that was an
You
exciting match.
both wrestled a lot alike.
It-
You
you-
know,
you're right.
All
yeah, you
long
said that.
and legs. And,
Exactly.
yeah, love the leg, just attack, but that carried over through college and beyond, and in life, and
well, I had a lot of Ratliffs.
yeah,
That's true.
Ratliff. I don't know
Yeah.
how much older he is than you, just offhand.
who Orlando?
No, Dirk.
Oh, Dirk is about 9
Dirk,
years old.
Dirk
Yeah, he
was
was more
Dirk-
in the
Cartwright.
70s.
Dirk was like a freshman or sophomore when I was at Proviso.
That's what I meant. I was still freshman coach at
I
that
think he was
time.
class of 79.
79. Okay, so he's a
Yeah.
freshman. I was a
So
senior.
75 was when I had him then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
Right.
freshman.
yeah.
Mhm.
So
Right.
we had,
He would
I
have been
had
with
that.
Eddie Baker.
Right,
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes.
But you
indeed.
guys, I mean, and I'm just gonna throw this out there because
Mhm.
especially Lid and Cartwright, you being white, taking on a black team in the black community, and just still showing that respect because we showed that you guys cared. We obviously knew Flowers cared because he was in the community, but you guys could have coached anywhere. You could have stayed with the Glen Bar West years ago or joined your brother at Conan or whatever, but you were right there in Maywood at Proviso East, and I'm sure you had offers left and right, but you chose
Yeah.
to work with us. So we owe you a big thank you as well
Yeah,
for
that's 2 days, Reg.
It works two ways, yeah.
Yeah.
one of my greatest honors was to go into the Maywood Horsemen after a wrestling meet with Bill Cartwright and Charles Flowers. I felt really special. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
That was important to me. And you know, those Maywood Horsemen, they used to have a breakfast for the kids in the spring and stuff like that.
Yes.
They got, you know, that's not going on.
It was a
anymore.
good group of people.
You're right. You're exactly right.
Somebody was mentioning, not the Maywood Horseman. Mr. McCluskey told me today to go on Netflix, and I forgot it's a coaching thing. There's a series, motivational. You guys probably heard about it or know it. I don't know. But one of them, Doc Rivers, was giving us, and he said it was so great. And he kept talking about his dad, Mr.
Grady
Rivers. Well, I've been in the horse move with him many years.
You're right. He was a horse.
He knows me, and he passed away a number of years ago. But
he did.
Yeah.
Right.
But he was like Glenn. He was a clone of his dad.
Absolutely.
And his dad was fun in
absolutely.
Amazing.
Cool.
I yearn for those days of old where we were a community, and hopefully, prayerfully, under Coach Eddie Baker, the Proviso East Wrestling program will become rejuvenated, and the pipeline that's coming from the Gladiators will go and touch on Proviso East and get back to, you know, what it used to be. But, you know, I want to thank each of you coaches for taking time from your schedule. And before I let you go, I want to give each of you an opportunity to share closing thoughts that you might have. And first, I want to start with Coach Flowers. If there's any words you'd like to share on this podcast, you have.
I just want to thank you, Reggie, for allowing me an opportunity to be part of your podcast. And I'm day to day, I'm sort of busy. My sons and stuff. My oldest son is a rookie with the Indianapolis Colts, and Monday night he ran back an 89-yard kick return for the Indianapolis Colts. So my time is spent traveling to Indianapolis, and my younger son is down in New Orleans at Southeastern Louisiana. So my time has been spent there. But anything I can do to help kids or work with them, I've always been available for that. So that's just been my life. So I enjoy it and like to see kids be successful.
Thank you, Coach Flowers. And I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for pouring in yourself into the Maywood community and Proviso East high school wrestling program for dozens of wrestlers and athletes who have come through, as well as students that you had when you were there. So I'd like to bring on also Coach Flowers and Coach Lid, since they're sitting together. Please share your thoughts, any final thoughts you might have.
Me? Okay. I'm just so grateful to have been part of it. Bill Cartwright and Charles Flowers. I'm grateful that I learned from the best. And not only did what I learned as a coach, it carried over in my classroom. So what I learned on the mats, on the baseball field from guys like Terry Reiser, it carried over into my classroom. And I'm also grateful that I have an opportunity now to teach chemistry to nurses at Elmhurst University, where I graduated from, and I find that just so gratifying, and that I'm still able to work with the youth at Glenbard West now. Kids are kids, no matter where they're at. They have some of those kids have serious problems as well, but I thank God that I've met athletes and students like yourself, Reggie, so many, and ones that didn't get to go downstate, ones that didn't, kids like, I'm thinking of a kid named Kurt Palmer. He didn't. This is a kid in the mid 2000 or 2015, 16. Didn't win a match as a freshman. In his last tournament as a varsity wrestler, he won at the Glenbard West tournament. And those are the moments that just give you chills down your spine when you see things like that. And, some of the adversity that I've seen kids overcome is just so inspiring. I think I learned more from you guys than I taught, than I taught you. And that's all I'll have to say.
Well, I would like to just finish by saying the same thing. Thanks to everybody. And I would like to say congratulations. I meant to say it earlier to Coach Flowers about his son, Dallas, pro football player. How awesome is that? And you, Eddie, you mentioned Eddie Baker, Reggie, and I hope he does well. And I know Eddie's a good coach. And one of the reasons why he's at Proviso is because of Coach Lid recommending him to all the administration, just so people know that. And that's pretty much all I have to say as well. And I would like to thank Coach Lid for keeping their mask on through this whole podcast. Thank you.
Well said. My heart is full, if you haven't known, but these are men who helped us to hone in our skills, not just in sports, specifically wrestling, but in life. We learned how to take whether we won on the mat or lost on the mat and turn it into a win in life. The return on investment is 100%. And so I'd like to thank, again, Dr. Charles Flowers, Coach Glen Lid, and Coach Bill Cartwright for taking time from their busy schedule and sharing some wonderful stories. And tune in for our next podcast. Like us on Facebook and YouTube. I am Dr. Reggie Ratliff. Please be safe out there. Don't spend all your money this holiday season. And until next time, God bless you, and we'll talk to you soon. Let's Talk Maywood and Diversity Today Media. God bless.